Well, hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Sam. I am a student of the Bible and a pastor and a writer, and my training involves biblical studies, theology, and biblical languages. So I got asked a question a couple weeks ago what my thoughts were on the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. I do not have one here with me. I used to own one a long time ago, and for some reason I can't find it. It's somewhere though. But I've had some time with the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible, going back to my freshman year in my undergrad. So I told the story yesterday when I was talking about the King James Bible that I grew up in a Baptist church that was King James only. I went to William Jessup University my freshman year of college, and a part of that was introducing me to different versions of the Bible. So for my first trimester, we had trimesters. I had a Life of Christ class, which was basically Gospels, all the stuff, the intertestamental period leading up to, and then the Life of Christ. We did a lot of work through the intertestamental period. We did a lot of work at the beginnings of the gospel messages. We talked a lot about textual criticism. We talked a lot about the Jesus seminar, all this kind of stuff when I did that. If you don't know what any of those are, just Google them. You'll see what that is. And then I had two other classes that I had to use that New Oxford Annotated Bible in. It was that Life of Christ class, which was all three trimesters, with a class called The History and Literature of Ancient Israel, which was like what other schools would call Old Testament survey, but that was what they had called it. I thought that was a cool name for it. All three trimesters we had to use that. And then there was what was the other class? Our New Testament Foundations class was like a New Testament survey kind of a class we used that for. My second trimester, I had a class, and I want to say it was called the Spiritual Development of the Leader or Spiritual Life of the Leader or something. And it was led by a guy who wasn't a professor, but he was a local pastor who was the spiritual life director of our school, our campus. And he led this class, and it was very much like taking care of your own spiritual life and that kind of thing. And he asked that we buy a Thompson Chain-Reference Bible as a part of that class. And he showed us how to use it, and we used it for understanding, how to thematically walk through the Bible and all this kind of stuff. And so I used it for a long time that way, and because he taught us how to use it that way. And it was an NIV version of that. So that was my first introduction to the NIV Bible. So I have a lot of experience with the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. And I had one, and I had it all written in and whatever, and I used it I think all during my college years, not actually the chain reference part of it, but just as my NIV Bible. And then when I graduated and went into seminary, I ended up putting it on the shelf and then never used it again. But so, if you're not quite familiar with the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible is, I want to kind of take us to, since I don't have one, I try to pull up a screenshot of what a page of the reference Bible looks like, so I can kind of walk you through it. And then I'm going to tell you, I'm not a big fan of it anymore. And I'm going to tell you why after I show you this. Okay, so here we go. This is what I think Luke chapter 1 looks like in the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible. And you'll notice, like on the left-hand side there, I guess it's the margin over here, it says all these little things here. There's cross-referencing, and then there's these little red numbers next to these themes. Okay, so it says like witnesses 3855A, and then ministers 12083. So what you do with this Bible is you, as you're reading it, you can see these things in the margins that have these numbers attached to them. And you go to the back, and there's this huge section in the back that's all of these numbers and all these topics are located in. And it shows you where they're all kind of connected. But you can go back to the beginning of the chain of that number and trace that chain all the way through the Bible. And it'll have that topic traced all the way through as far as they could, connect everything together. And so that's how the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible works. So if you wanted to look up living witnesses, for example, like out there on the left-hand side, you would go to 3605, and it would take you back to a specific thing that you would look up in that number, and then you would follow the chain all the way through the rest of the Bible to get to the end of it. And you could read all the verses where they would say, yes, these are where we would find living witnesses. Okay. So why am I not a big fan of this? Well, as I have grown in my understanding of Scripture, and, as I went through seminary classes, as I started deep diving into historical context, into literary context, and started going, okay, what is the author intending to speak to their audience in any given book or whatever? I started realizing that this system actually undermines all of that. It undermines the historical context. It undermines what that specific author would want to say specifically to their audience. And what this does is actually this univocalizes the text in a way that is really like it's trying to force it into the text. And you start seeing that as you start following these chains. You're like, I'm not sure these are really connected, but they're all titled that way. And what you end up getting after you use this Bible for a long time is, oh, look, this passage connects to this passage, connects to this passage. These are all one voice speaking on this topic. And that's called univocality. And I think the Thompson Chain-Reference Bible is a snapshot of what univocality is. And I think it actually undercuts and undermines what specific authors want to say to their specific audiences. And it undermines, I think, really good interpretation for kind of a pseudo interpretation of a holistic picture kind of a deal. So that's why I would not recommend it, because what I would want someone to do is to learn how to interpret, like Luke, for example. Understand Luke's historical context, understand who the audience is that they're writing to, understand what's going on there, understand who Luke is, understand who Paul is and in relationship to Luke, and where these eyewitnesses came from and why he decided to write, what he's really writing here. And then how does his historical context differ from Matthew, Mark, and John's? How does this stuff, how does he have something unique to say to his audience? And I think some of this stuff just undercuts that completely. And so I would want interpretation to come from, hey, we're going to look at Luke and we're not going to try to harmonize. We're not going to try to univocalize. We're just going to take this author, what they want to say, and really kind of, look at that from their perspective first. And then we can match it up with other gospels, but I don't think we need to unnecessarily chain things together and unnecessarily harmonize things together that feel like they're being forced to harmonize together. So that's my take on it. I know people love this Bible and they love the system and all that kind of stuff. That's totally cool. It's not for me, and I don't usually recommend it because I personally feel like it undercuts some of the study that you can actually do to understand these things in perspective, and it gives you more of an apologetic look at the scriptures than a historically literature-based author intent, all that kind of stuff look at the scriptures. So anyway, that's my take on it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.